Hey there, colleague. How in the world are you doing? Dave Stewart here, coming to you live from DSJR headquarters in my high school teaching classroom. Hey, I wanted to make a quick note to add on to an article that I wrote earlier on this week. It was an article about how I'm modifying my approach to using the article of the week assignment in my classroom. So, quick 10-second context. Article of the week is a knowledge building assignment that Kelly Gallagher developed in his high school English language arts classroom. uh, you know, 10 or more years ago. And it's something that many teachers around the country and the world use to try to make their curriculum more knowledge rich and to get students to increase the volume of reading and writing that they're doing in class. Okay, so I like the article of the week assignment. It makes a lot of sense. And I want it to be very efficient. That's the thing, because this is extracurricular typically. Your article of the week is like, okay, I want to create as knowledge rich of a uh, experience for my students as I can, but I also do have a curriculum that I need to work through with my students. So these extra knowledge building exercises have to be pretty efficient. All right. And they also have to be efficient on me as a teacher in terms of my workload. Okay. And if you want to learn more about Article of the Week, I'll put a couple links in the video description because I'm not going to go super in depth into the tons that we could say about the assignment. All right, but I wrote recently that I am going to be shifting my articles of the week to being primarily on the computer screen for my students. I'm going to move out the step in the process for me of making the PDF, making a Google Doc, and they're going to access the articles right on the screen. And I wrote about all the reasons for that in another article that I'll link to in the description. Okay, but some of you wrote back to me and you said, wait a second, Dave, what about annotation? I really like the annotation that students get to do with articles of the week. And I, for some reason, did not write about that in my article explaining my shift. So that was a big oversight on my part. Thanks for writing in. Here's what I'm going to do for annotation. So, you know me, first of all, why do we have students annotate? It's super important that we have a clear understanding of why we're even doing that. I do not want my students to mindlessly go through the motions of annotation. I don't want them just putting this symbol or that underline just because I'm telling them to. I want them to annotate for the same reasons that I learned how to annotate in college and that maybe you learned how to annotate at some point in your life. Not because someone told you to do it, but because all of a sudden you realize I need to do this. I need to do this because the text is really complex and I've got to summarize what I'm coming across. I need to do this because the teacher's expecting me to write an essay and I want to have specific parts of the article that I'm reading to respond to when I go down to write. And rather than have to go through the entire article when I sit down to write, I'm just going to look at my annotations and that's going to be like my jumping off point in my writing. So that's what I call purposeful annotation. Really clever name, right? It's got such a ring to it. So, so that is something that's way easier on paper. That is also why I liked in the past. I mean, that's one of many reasons why I liked to make this a purely analog assignment for my students. Okay. So what do we do in the digital format if we're going to teach purposeful annotations? Well, here's what I'm thinking right now. And if you remind me, I'll make further articles or videos about this once I start to try it out in the fall. But I want to show my students my process as a reader, researcher, writer for taking things that I read digitally and collecting basically small little pieces from those things that I want to later write about. Okay. I don't just copy and paste an entire article and put it into a note in Evernote. I take little pieces and then I will write why I picked that piece. What is that piece? How is that relevant to what I want to say about the article or what I'm trying to figure out as a learner? So basically, I want to workshop with my students. I don't know if we'll use Evernote. I like Evernote because it's with me on my phone and on my computer, but it's a pretty beefy program, and I don't want us to get in the weeds with Article of the Week. Remember, this is supposed to be efficient. We want it to be pretty frictionless for our students. So I don't want to go like crazy in depth, but maybe I'll try Evernote. I might just teach them how to do something like that with Google Docs. But the idea is you're preparing yourself to write later on. You're preparing yourself to write later on. You know, other things that I would teach students to do with analog articles of the week are things like defining words that you don't know. So we'll look at how to do that on a computer browser. But the biggest reason that I still want to teach my students how to do more than just read to also annotate or, clip. Maybe we'll call it purposeful clipping, purposeful note taking. I don't know. But the reason I want them to do that is because I want their writing to be high quality. Okay. Because the better the quality of their writing is after an article of the week, the more that they're going to learn. All right. Feel free to ask me more questions in the comments. I'd love to answer them. But this video has already been too long. So take care of yourself. And remember, I'm going to be using YouTube more in the year to come. So feel free to subscribe. You should subscribe. Yeah, you should. It'd be a great time to be together in the future through videos.